Aliens tried to study the dead language for centuries, until a human veteran said, "I wrote this." Before we dive into this story, drop a quick hi in the comments and tell me where you're watching from. It really helps support the channel. The ancient text glowed softly beneath the specialized preservation field, its strange symbols defying translation despite centuries of the greatest xenolinguistic minds attempting to crack its code. Dr. Zale Voss, the most renowned scholar of the Galactic Consortium, stood before it with his 4 arms crossed in frustration. The text had been discovered on a derelict space station at the edge of charted space nearly 300 years ago. Since then, it had become the most studied and least understood artifact in galactic history. Its symbols matched no known language family across 17,000 documented civilizations. The material it was written on defied conventional aging analysis. Most peculiarly, it contained mathematical formulations that simultaneously appeared sophisticated and nonsensical. Entire academic careers had risen and fallen attempting to decipher it. Multiple religious cults had formed around various interpretations of its meaning. The consortium's leadership considered it the greatest xenoarchaeological mystery of their age. Dr. Voss's frustration stemmed from having devoted 60 years of his life to this particular puzzle, and today marked his final presentation before mandatory retirement. His terminal dissertation would conclude with the same statement that began his career: the text remained undeciphered. "Professor, the human delegation has arrived," announced his assistant, Run, a slender Talaxian with skin that shimmered with bioluminescent patterns when excited. Today, Ren's skin glowed intensely, betraying their nervousness. "Humans? I didn't schedule any humans," Dr. Voss replied, irritation evident in his voice. Humans were the newest members of the consortium, having joined barely 30 years ago. Their rapid advancement from primitive planetary civilization to interstellar society had caught the attention of many xenosociologists, but Voss found them utterly perplexing. They were chaotic, emotional, and had a distressing tendency to solve problems through what they called intuitive leaps rather than proper methodical analysis. "The directorate invited them, sir. Apparently, they've been making noise about some new translation theory." Rin shifted uncomfortably. "The humans claim they have fresh insights." Dr. Voss snorted, a sound his species made to indicate derision. "Fresh insights? They barely understand quantum linguistics. They still communicate primarily through crude sound vibrations rather than proper electromagnetic thought patterns." The door to the preservation chamber slid open, and 3 figures entered. 2 were standard consortium security officers, but the third was unmistakably human. Bipedal, clothed rather than naturally covered, and with that strange patch of facial hair that some human males cultivated. This particular specimen walked with a slight limp and appeared to be in the latter portion of the human lifespan. His hair turned white. "Dr. Voss, I presume?" The human extended a hand, another peculiar human custom that Voss reluctantly accommodated by offering one of his lower appendages. "I am Dr. Voss, yes. And you are?" "Ethan Cole, retired sergeant, Earth Combined Forces, Linguistics Division." The human smiled, showing teeth in that disarming way their species seemed to think was friendly rather than threatening. "I understand you folks have been struggling with a translation problem." Voss felt his neck ridges stiffen with indignation. "Struggling?" "The artifact, as we call it, represents the most complex linguistic puzzle in known galactic history. We have applied the finest minds and most advanced algorithms across 3 centuries of dedicated study." "May I see it?" Cole asked, seeming unperturbed by Voss's bristling response. Rin guided the human toward the preservation field where the text lay suspended in a perfect stasis environment. The human approached with none of the reverence that such an important artifact deserved, peering at it with casual interest. Then something unexpected happened. The human's expression changed dramatically. His eyes widened, his mouth opened slightly, and he made a strange, choking sound. "Is the human malfunctioning?" Voss asked with genuine concern. Cole's response was incomprehensible, a loud barking noise that Voss's translator eventually rendered as laughter. "Holy shit," Cole finally said, wiping moisture from his eyes. I never thought I'd see this again. Voss exchanged confused glances with Ren. See what again? Do you recognize something in the text? Recognize it. Cole was still making those strange laughing sounds. I wrote this. The statement hung in the air, so absurd that for a moment neither Voss nor Ren's translators seemed able to process it. When they did, Voss felt all four of his hearts accelerate in rhythm. That is impossible, Voss stated flatly. The artifact was discovered 300 years ago, long before your species achieved interstellar travel. The material has been dated to approximately 500 years of age, though its properties make precise dating challenging. Cole nodded, still smiling. Yeah, that tracks. I wrote it about 30 years ago, Earth time. We were part of a covert deep space reconnaissance mission before first contact. Got into some trouble, had to abandon ship. Left behind some of our stuff, I guess. Preposterous, Voss declared. The complexity of the mathematical formulations alone suggests an advanced civilization. It's not math. It's a tabletop role-playing game character sheet, Cole said, pointing at various sections of the text. This part here is the character's attributes. These are the special abilities. This section tracks inventory. Voss felt his respiratory filters constricting with outrage. You expect me to believe that the greatest linguistic mystery of our age is some form of entertainment? Not just any entertainment, Cole said, his face taking on an expression of nostalgic pride. It's the third edition of Nebula Knights, Void Crusaders. I was the dungeon master for our unit. Made character sheets for everyone in the squad. Ren moved closer to the display, their skin now pulsing with confused patterns of light. Sir, the human might be telling the truth. Look at these symbols here. They match the phonetic structure of early English. Impossible, Voss repeated, though with less certainty. We've run comparative analyses against all 17 dialects of human English. Well, this isn't exactly standard English, Cole explained. It's gamer shorthand, mixed with some military jargon, plus a bunch of inside jokes from our unit. We used Decipher too, just for fun. We were bored on long deployments, you know? Voss felt the foundations of his academic world beginning to crumble. Prove it, he demanded. Translate a section. Cole pointed to a complex arrangement of symbols near the top of the document. This says Zorgax the Destroyer, level 14 Void Knight, chaotic neutral. That was Captain Rivera's character. Always played the edgy types. Voss stared at the symbols, which had defied the consortium's most sophisticated translation matrices for centuries. And this section, he asked, indicating a dense cluster of intricate markings. Special ability, Neutron Star Slam. When activated, Zorgax channels the gravitational force of a collapsing star into his quantum hammer. Does 8d12 damage plus knockback effect. Cole chuckled. Rivera loved using that move. Always made the rest of us roll our eyes. The implications were beginning to cascade through Voss's analytical mind, like a quantum computation reaching impossible conclusions. If what you say is true, then entire academic disciplines have been built around a game? Looks like it, Cole said with a shrug. Sorry about that. The doors to the preservation chamber slid open again, and Director Thax entered, accompanied by a retinue of high-ranking consortium officials. Thax, a massive Drovian with ceremonial rank scales covering their upper torso, surveyed the room with compound eyes that missed nothing. Dr. Voss, we received word that there has been a development with the artifact, Thax announced, their voice resonating at the precise frequency designed to command attention. Voss found himself in an unprecedented situation. In 60 years of academic service, he had never been speechless before a superior. Yet now, faced with explaining that 3 centuries of prestigious research had been focused on deciphering what amounted to a human recreational activity, he found his vocal processors refusing to function. I believe I can explain, Director, Cole offered, stepping forward with that curious confidence humans often displayed in situations where they should rightfully be intimidated. Your mysterious artifact is actually a character sheet for a fantasy game that my military unit played during deep space deployments about 3 decades ago. Director Thax's compound eyes focused on the human with laser intensity. A game. Yes, sir. A role-playing game called Nebula Knights. It's where players pretend to be heroes in an imaginary universe and go on adventures. Cole pointed to various sections of the text. I can translate the whole thing if you'd like. It's written in a specialized cipher that combines standard English with military shorthand and some made-up fantasy terms. Director Thax turned to Voss, their scales shifting to a color that indicated extreme skepticism. Is this accurate, Doctor? Voss forced his vocal processors to engage. The human's claim is being evaluated, Director. It is highly improbable that. It's Jake Rivera's character sheet, Cole interrupted, pointing to a smudge at the bottom of the document that had been cataloged as Anomaly Pattern Delta 7 in the official research. That's even his coffee stain from when Lieutenant Kim made him laugh too hard during the Battle of Vega's Nebula campaign. See how it's shaped like a crescent? We joked it was the mark of Zarkin, an evil overlord in our game world. The specificity of this detail seemed to give Director Thax pause. If this is true, it would represent a significant reassessment of current xenolinguistic theory. That's putting it mildly, Cole said. Look, I understand this is awkward. You've got, 300 years of research invested in this thing. But I can prove it's exactly what I say it is. Ask me any question about the content. For the next hour, Cole proceeded to translate, explain, and contextualize every marking on the document, from the elaborate statistical notations, character attributes and skill points, to the complex symbolic sequences, special abilities and spell descriptions, to the geometric patterns that had been theorized to represent advanced mathematical concepts, a simple grid for tracking inventory items. As the human's explanation continued, Voss observed the changing expressions on the faces of the consortium officials. Disbelief gave way to shock, shock to embarrassment, and finally, in some cases, to a grudging amusement. Director Thax, however, maintained a rigid composure. If what you say is true, human, Thax finally said, why did your species not inform us of this when you joined the consortium? You must have recognized the artifact from our public research archives. Cole shrugged. Honestly, nobody asked us. The images in your archives don't show the whole document clearly, just fragments. Plus, it's not like every human knows about Nebula Knights. It was a niche hobby even back when I played it. Voss found himself increasingly convinced of the human's explanation, despite his desire to deny it. The material composition has always been anomalous, he admitted reluctantly. It doesn't match any known natural substance. It's laminated paper, Cole said. We used a military-grade waterproof lamination process because we were always spilling coffee on our character sheets during long missions. The lamination contains synthetic polymers with radiation-resistant properties, standard for deep space deployment materials back then. Director Thax's scales had shifted to the deep purple of decision-making. Dr. Voss, I am authorizing full cooperation with the human to verify this claim. If confirmed, we will need to reassess 3 centuries of xenolinguistic research. As Director Thax and the other officials exited, Voss found himself alone with Cole and Ren. The human approached him with what appeared to be genuine sympathy. Look, I know this must be rough, Cole said. Dedicating your career to something and then finding out it's not what you thought. Voss felt his primary stomach constrict with academic dread. 60 years of my research, invalidated in a single day by a game. Not invalidated, Cole countered, surprising Voss. Redirected, maybe. Think about it. Your people developed entirely new linguistic theories trying to decode our cipher. You created mathematical models to explain game mechanics that were designed to be fun, not logical. That's pretty impressive when you think about it. Ren, who had been unusually quiet, suddenly spoke up. The human is correct, Professor. The methodologies we developed to study the artifact have applications far beyond this single text. Your work on pattern recognition algorithms revolutionized 3 fields of study. Voss considered this perspective, his scientific mind gradually asserting control over his emotional response. Perhaps, he conceded, though it is difficult to accept that the foundation was recreational rather than profound. Who says recreational can't be profound? Cole asked. This game brought my unit together during some dark times. We were light years from home, facing danger every day. This game gave us a way to process that experience, to build bonds that kept us alive. Over the next several days, Cole worked with the consortium's linguists to fully translate the character sheet and explain the cultural context that had produced it. As he did, something unexpected began to happen. Rather than diminishing the significance of the artifact, the humans' explanations added new dimensions of understanding. The cipher, it turned out, incorporated elements from 12 human languages and specialized jargon from 23 distinct fields of human knowledge, from military operations to mythological systems to quantum physics. The game mechanics, designed purely for entertainment, had inadvertently created a mathematical system that paralleled certain aspects of actual cosmic phenomena in ways their creators had never intended. Most intriguingly, the cultural practices around this role-playing game revealed aspects of human psychology that the consortium's xenosociologists found fascinating. The human capacity for collaborative storytelling, their ability to create and inhabit imaginary personas, and their tendency to process real-world experiences through fictional frameworks. 2 weeks after Cole's initial revelation, Voss found himself in a strange position, defending the continued importance of the artifact to the consortium's academic council. While the origin of the text has been established as recreational rather than academic, its value as a cultural artifact remains significant, Voss argued before the assembled council members. Indeed, it provides unprecedented insight into human cognitive processes and social dynamics. Director Thax, who presided over the council, seemed skeptical. You spent 60 years attempting to decipher what amounts to a human entertainment product, Dr. Voss. Now you claim this revelation enhances rather than diminishes its importance. Precisely, Voss confirmed, his academic passion rekindled. Consider, without understanding its original purpose, our finest minds spent centuries developing new theoretical frameworks to explain its patterns. Those frameworks remain valid and have advanced our understanding of linguistic evolution, pattern recognition, and cognitive mapping. From the back of the chamber, Cole watched with interest as the alien academics debated the significance of his old gaming group's character sheet. The whole situation struck him as absurdly funny, but he'd grown to respect Dr. Voss's intellectual integrity in the face of what must have been a devastating professional revelation. After the council session adjourned, Cole approached Voss in the corridor. That was quite a defense, Doctor. Didn't expect you to become the artifact's champion after everything. Voss's neck ridges rippled in what Cole had come to recognize as the Vossian equivalent of a wry smile. Scientific inquiry demands intellectual honesty, Sergeant Cole. When facts change, theories must adapt. Call me Ethan, Cole said. And for what it's worth, I think you're right about the significance. Our game was just a game to us, but the way you folks studied it, that's impressive. You saw patterns we never consciously put there. Because they exist nonetheless, Voss replied. The human mind creates order even in recreation, it seems. Quite fascinating. As they walked toward the artifact chamber, Cole felt a growing curiosity. So what happens now? Does the consortium just file this away as a cultural curiosity? Voss made a gesture that his translator rendered as negative. On the contrary, Director Thax has approved an expanded research initiative, a comparative study of human recreational activities and their cognitive implications. The artifact will be the centerpiece of this new field of inquiry. You're kidding, Cole said, genuinely surprised. I assure you, I am not engaging in humor, Voss replied. The consortium values knowledge in all forms. The revelation that humans encode complex information in their recreational activities suggests untapped potential for cross-species understanding. They reached the artifact chamber, where a team of researchers from various species were already at work, examining the character sheet with new eyes and perspectives. We would like to request your assistance, Ethan Cole, Voss said formally. As the creator of this artifact, your insights would be invaluable to our research. Cole looked at the laminated character sheet, a relic from his military days that had somehow become the focus of interstellar academic attention, and felt a strange sense of pride. I'd be happy to help, Doctor. Though I should warn you, if you're interested in human games, you've barely scratched the surface. Meaning? Voss inquired, his sensory appendages extending with interest. Well, Cole said with a grin, wait until you folks discover chess, or poker, or Monopoly. Humans have been encoding our values, fears, hopes, and social structures into games for thousands of years. This character sheet? It's just the beginning. Voss's translator took a moment to process the implications before rendering his response. Fascinating. Perhaps humanity's greatest contribution to galactic knowledge will come not from your technology or formal scientific theories, but from how you play. Cole laughed. Now that would be ironic. The species that joined the galactic community last makes its mark through games. Not games, Ethan Cole, Voss corrected. Windows into the human mind. And those, it seems, are far more complex and revealing than we ever suspected. As more human cultural experts were summoned to the consortium's research facility, Cole found himself at the center of a burgeoning field of study. The artifact, his old character sheet, had become the key to a new understanding between species. And somewhere out in the void, he thought with amusement, the rest of his old unit would be laughing their asses off if they knew that their gaming sessions had become the focus of serious academic study across the galaxy. What had begun as a misunderstanding was transforming into something much more significant, a bridge between radically different ways of thinking. And as Cole watched the various alien researchers poring over his decades-old creation with genuine fascination, he couldn't help but wonder what other seemingly mundane human activities might contain depths that even humanity itself had never fully appreciated. 6 months after Cole's revelation about the artifact, the consortium's research facility had undergone a radical transformation. What had once been a sterile, methodical environment dedicated to deciphering a single text had expanded into a vibrant interdisciplinary center studying human recreational activities of all kinds. The central chamber that had housed the artifact now displayed dozens of human games, from ancient chess sets to digital gaming interfaces, each surrounded by researchers from various species attempting to understand the cognitive patterns encoded within them. Cole had been offered a permanent position as human recreation consultant, a title that still made him chuckle. Today, he was scheduled to demonstrate a basic Nebula Nights campaign to a group of xenopsychologists and cultural anthropologists. The dice represent probability factors, Cole explained to the assembled aliens as he set up a gaming table. Humans find uncertainty entertaining in controlled contexts. Dr. Voss, who had become Cole's unlikely friend and research partner, added his own insights. Notice how the random number generation creates emotional investment in outcomes. This is contrary to most species' preference for predictability. A Calarian researcher with translucent skin that revealed her pulsing neural pathways raised an appendage. But the parameters are constrained by these numerical attributes on the character documentation, the same patterns we observed in the artifact. Exactly, Cole confirmed. The character sheet creates boundaries for the randomness. Your character might be strong but clumsy, or intelligent but physically weak. Those constraints create narrative tension. As Cole continued explaining the fundamentals of role-playing games, he was interrupted by the arrival of Director Thax, accompanied by several high-ranking consortium officials he didn't recognize. Sergeant Cole, Thax announced formally, your presence is requested at an emergency session of the High Council. Cole glanced at Voss, who appeared equally surprised. What's this about, Director? A situation has developed that may require your specialized knowledge, Thax replied cryptically. Dr. Voss will accompany us as well. As they were escorted to the council chambers through the consortium's vast headquarters, Cole noticed an unusual level of activity. Officials hurried through corridors, security protocols had been heightened, and there was a palpable tension in the air. I'm getting the feeling this isn't about games anymore, Cole whispered to Voss as they approached the ornate doors of the High Council chamber. I share your assessment, Voss replied quietly. The High Council rarely convenes for academic matters, regardless of their cultural significance. The council chamber was an imposing space, designed to accommodate representatives of all 17,000 member civilizations. Today, however, only the 12 senior counselors were present, their massive seats arranged in a semicircle around a central projection area. Sergeant Ethan Cole, Dr. Zale Voss, announced the chief counselor, a Meridian elder whose age was measured in millennia. Thank you for responding promptly to our summons. Cole nodded respectfully, suddenly aware of the gravity of the situation. Happy to help, Counselor, though I'm not sure what a retired soldier and a xenolinguist can offer the High Council. The chief counselor gestured, and a holographic projection appeared in the center of the chamber. 3 days ago, our deep space monitoring station in the Cygnus sector detected an anomalous object approaching consortium space. The hologram showed a massive structure, clearly artificial but of unknown design, moving through the void between stars. Initial scans indicate it is approximately 20 kilometers in length, composed of materials not consistent with known construction techniques, continued the counselor. It appears to be a vessel of some kind, though it matches no known design in our records. An unknown species? Cole asked, studying the strange configuration of the object. Unknown, yes, but not unencountered, replied the counselor grimly. The vessel began transmitting a message on all frequencies 18 hours ago. Our linguistics division has been unable to decipher it, but they identified a pattern that matches certain elements found in the artifact. Your character sheet, Sergeant Cole. Cole felt a chill run down his spine. That's impossible. Nebula Nights was just a game invented on Earth. There's no way an alien vessel would be transmitting in our made-up cipher. Voss stepped forward, his scientific curiosity engaged. May we hear the transmission? The chief counselor nodded, and the chamber filled with a sequence of sounds, clicks, tones, and modulated static that seemed randomly arranged to Cole's ears. I don't recognize this, Cole admitted after listening for several minutes. It doesn't sound like anything related to our game. Not to your untrained hearing, Voss agreed. But the mathematical relationship between the sound patterns matches the structural elements of your cipher with 87% correlation. It cannot be coincidence. The chief counselor's expression grew even more serious. There is one more detail you should be aware of. When our probes approached the vessel for closer scanning, it responded by destroying them with weapons of unknown design. Before they were obliterated, the probes captured this image. The hologram shifted to show a symbol emblazoned on the hull of the mysterious vessel, a stylized emblem that made Cole's blood run cold. That's impossible, he whispered. You recognize this insignia? Asked the chief counselor. It's the mark of Zarkin, Cole explained, his voice unsteady. The evil overlord from our game world. The fictional antagonist our characters fought against. A murmur ran through the council members. How could a fictional character from a human game appear on an unknown vessel at the edge of charted space? One of them demanded. Cole shook his head, struggling to process the implications. I don't know. It doesn't make any sense. Voss, ever the methodical scientist, offered a hypothesis. The abandonment of your military vessel 30 years ago. Could it have contained more than just the character sheet we found? Perhaps detailed descriptions of your game world. Sure, Cole acknowledged. We had notebooks, campaign guides, all sorts of materials. We were deployed for months at a time. Gaming was our main entertainment. And might these materials have contained technical specifications, weaponry descriptions, strategic scenarios? Voss pressed. Cole felt the blood drain from his face as understanding dawned. Oh God. Yes. We were military personnel with high-level clearance. Our game incorporated elements from classified weapons systems, theoretical battle tactics, even experimental technology. We used it as a way to work through professional problems while having fun. The chief counselor's expression was grave. Then it appears that some entity has discovered your abandoned materials and interpreted your game as factual information, perhaps even as instructions. But who? Cole asked. And why would they build a vessel based on a fictional villain from our game? A new voice answered. One of the other counselors, a draconian with scaled skin that shimmered in the chamber's light. Perhaps because your fiction aligned with their reality in ways you could not have anticipated. At the counselor's gesture, a new image appeared. Ancient cave paintings from a world on the far edge of the galaxy. The primitive artwork depicted beings that bore a striking resemblance to the Zarkin character from the Nebula Knights game. Tall, multiple-limbed entities with distinctive crested heads. The Vorix, explained the draconian counselor. A species believed to have gone extinct 10,000 years ago after a catastrophic civil war. They were renowned as brilliant engineers, but dangerously aggressive. It appears they may have survived in isolated pockets beyond our monitoring range. And they found our game materials, Cole concluded, the horrifying implications becoming clear. They found descriptions of weapons systems, tactical scenarios, and a fictional villain that happened to resemble their own species. A remarkable confluence of coincidences, Voss observed. Your fictional creation may have provided them with both technological inspiration and cultural validation. The chief counselor rose to her full height, towering over the others. Sergeant Cole, Dr. Voss, the council requires your assistance. If this vessel is indeed operated by Vorix who have been influenced by human gaming materials, your understanding of both the original content and its potential interpretations could be crucial to establishing communication. Cole felt the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. I'll help however I can, counselor, but I'm not sure what good a retired sergeant can do against a 20-kilometer warship. Knowledge is often more powerful than weapons, the chief counselor replied. You created this language. Perhaps you can use it to communicate. Over the next several days, Cole worked with Voss and the consortium's best linguists to analyze the transmissions from the approaching vessel. The more they studied the signals, the more certain they became that the entities aboard were indeed using a corrupted version of the Nebula Knights gaming cipher, mixed with what appeared to be authentic Vorix linguistic elements. They're using our game terms, but they've assigned different meanings to them, Cole explained to the emergency response team. In our game, Neutron Star Slam was just a special attack. In their transmissions, it seems to refer to an actual weapon system. Most concerning, Voss added, is their repeated use of the phrase Zarkin's vengeance, which appears to be both a mission statement and a religious concept. The vessel had now entered consortium space and was approaching the Proxima system, home to 16 billion sentient beings across 7 planets. Diplomatic attempts had failed, defensive warnings had been ignored, and the consortium's military resources were being mobilized for a confrontation that all experts agreed would result in catastrophic casualties on both sides. There must be another way, Cole insisted during a strategy session with military commanders. If they're basing their actions on our game, maybe we can use that connection. What do you propose, Sergeant? Asked Admiral Thorne, the grizzled Andromedan in charge of the consortium's defense fleet. Cole considered the question carefully. In our game, Zarkin wasn't just a villain. He had a specific code of honor. He would always accept a challenge from a worthy opponent in single combat. You suggest we challenge a 20-kilometer warship to a duel? Admiral Thorne asked incredulously. Not exactly, Cole replied. But if they're following the mythology of our game, there are rules they might adhere to. Specific protocols for challenge and combat. And if they don't, demanded the Admiral, then we're no worse off than we are now, Cole pointed out. But if they've built their entire culture around misinterpreted elements of our game, it's worth trying to communicate on those terms. After hours of debate, the High Council reluctantly approved Cole's plan. A small diplomatic vessel would approach the Vorix ship, broadcasting a message crafted in the original Nebula Knights cipher, a formal challenge invoking the ancient rites of Zarkin's own warrior code. This is insanity, Admiral Thorne muttered as Cole prepared to board the diplomatic vessel. Sending a retired human soldier to confront an extinct species that's built a doomsday weapon based on a game. When you put it that way, it does sound pretty crazy, Cole admitted with a wry smile. But sometimes the craziest plans are the only ones that work. Voss insisted on accompanying Cole, arguing that his expertise in linguistic analysis would be essential for real-time communication adjustments. Together, they boarded the sleek diplomatic craft, along with a small crew of specialists chosen for their ability to adapt to unprecedented situations. As they approached the massive Vorax vessel, Cole felt a surreal sense of disbelief. The ship was even more imposing up close, a twisted amalgamation of advanced technology and design elements that seemed pulled directly from the artwork he and his unit had sketched during long deployments in deep space. Broadcasting the challenge message now, reported the communications officer, her tentacles dancing across the control panel. The message Cole had crafted was simple but specific, using terminology and concepts from the original game. To the warriors of Zarkin, I, Ethan Cole, creator of the sacred texts, invoke the right of Creator's challenge as established in the Chronicles of the Void Knights. By Zarkin's own code of honor, you must grant audience to the one who shaped your destiny. For several tense minutes, there was no response. The massive Vorax vessel continued its ominous approach toward the populated Proxima system. Then, suddenly, it slowed. "They're responding," announced the communications officer, surprise evident in her voice. A harsh, grating voice filled the command deck, speaking in a broken version of English mixed with game terminology and what must have been native Vorax language. The translator struggled to render it coherently. Creator speaks. Zarkin's children here. Challenge rights acknowledged. Approach for judgment. Cole exchanged glances with Voss. "I think we just got invited aboard." "Indeed," Voss agreed. "Though judgment suggests they may not be planning a friendly reception. One problem at a time," Cole replied, gesturing to the pilot. "Take us in, but maintain emergency jump readiness." A massive docking bay opened in the side of the Vorax vessel, a cavernous space that could have accommodated a small city. As their diplomatic craft settled onto the deck, Cole saw hundreds of figures waiting in formation. The Vorax were both familiar and alien, taller than humans, with 4 upper limbs and 2 powerful lower ones, their bodies covered in interlocking plates that might have been armor or might have been natural exoskeleton. Their crested heads bore an uncanny resemblance to the sketches Cole's unit had drawn of the fictional Zarkin character 3 decades earlier. "Ready for this?" Cole asked Voss as they prepared to disembark. "Scientifically fascinating," Voss replied with characteristic understatement. "Though I calculate our survival probability at approximately 23.7%. I've faced worse odds," Cole said with a grim smile. "Just follow my lead and remember, everything they know about interacting with other species likely comes from our game materials. They're following a script we wrote, even if they've misinterpreted it." As they stepped onto the deck of the Vorax vessel, escorted by consortium security officers who looked woefully inadequate beside the towering aliens, a single Vorax stepped forward from the assembled ranks. Its crest was more elaborate than the others, marked with symbols that Cole recognized with a shock. They were corrupted versions of the rank insignia his unit had designed for the game's villain hierarchy. "Creator," the Vorax leader announced, its voice a harsh mechanical sound that suggested vocal apparatus very different from human or consortium species. "You claim rights. Prove identity." Cole stepped forward, fighting to keep his voice steady. "I am Ethan Cole, former Sergeant of Earth Combined Forces, Linguistics Division. 30 years ago, my unit created the game you found, Nebula Knights, Void Crusaders. I was the game master. I wrote the character sheets, the campaign notes, and helped design the world you've adapted." The Vorax leader's multiple eyes narrowed, compound structures that shifted and realigned as they focused on Cole. "Show knowledge of sacred texts." Cole took a deep breath. This was the moment his entire plan hinged on. Zarkin's Code of Honor, Rule 7. A true warrior faces worthy opponents directly, not through proxies or deception. Rule 12. Victory without challenge brings no glory to Zarkin's name. The rites of ascension require 3 trials: knowledge, strength, and sacrifice. The assembled Vorax warriors made a strange chittering sound that the translator couldn't process. The leader raised all four of its upper limbs in what might have been a religious gesture. Creator knowledge confirmed, it announced. Sacred challenge accepted. Cole felt a momentary surge of hope, quickly tempered by caution. Before we proceed, I need to understand your intentions. Why have you entered consortium space with weapons active? Why do you call yourselves Zarkin's children? The Vorax leader seemed confused by the question. Following sacred instructions. Grand campaign. Zarkin's vengeance against the Void Lords. Voss stepped forward, his scientific curiosity overcoming his caution. You interpreted the gaming materials as actual historical records or instructions, not interpretations. Truth, the Vorax insisted. Zarkin's words found in Void. Technology designs. Battle plans. Enemy identification. Cole felt a cold realization washing over him. The campaign his unit had been playing when they abandoned ship had been called Zarkin's Vengeance, a scenario where the villain Zarkin sought revenge against the Void Lords, who, in their game, had been represented by the very same species now making up the Galactic Consortium. This is a misunderstanding, Cole explained carefully. The materials you found were not historical records or instructions. They were entertainment, fiction created for enjoyment. Zarkin never existed. The Void Lords were not real enemies. They were all invented. The Vorax leader's reaction was immediate and alarming. Its body plates flared, and a high-pitched sound emerged that sent the assembled warriors into obvious agitation. Blasphemy, the translator rendered. Sacred texts clear. Zarkin's technology functional. Enemy descriptions match consortium species. Because we based our fictional creations on things we knew, Cole explained desperately. The technology descriptions came from real military systems we were familiar with. The alien descriptions were just creative variations on species we'd heard about. For a tense moment, Cole thought the Vorax might attack. Then, unexpectedly, the leader made a different gesture, one that Cole recognized from their game materials as indicating a request for proof. Prove fiction claim, the Vorax demanded. If creator, demonstrate creation process. Cole glanced at Voss, a plan forming. I need gaming materials, he told the Vorax leader. Dice, character sheets, writing implements. I can show you how we created the world you found. What followed was perhaps the strangest diplomatic encounter in consortium history. In a massive war room aboard the Vorax vessel, surrounded by technology capable of destroying entire planets, Cole set up a gaming table and began to run a Nebula Knights campaign for the Vorax leadership. This is how it works, Cole explained, distributing hastily created character sheets. Each of you creates an imaginary persona, a character who exists only in our shared imagination. Then, together, we tell a story about those characters. The Vorax were initially skeptical, but as Cole guided them through character creation, explaining how the numerical attributes and special abilities were balanced for entertainment rather than reality, their resistance began to waver. See, this number here isn't based on actual physics, Cole pointed out, indicating a damage calculation on one of their weapon systems. We made it up to be fun, not accurate. Real neutron interactions don't work that way at all. As the improvised gaming session continued, Voss provided scientific context, explaining the discrepancies between the game mechanics and actual physical laws. Gradually, the Vorax began to understand the concept of fiction, a completely foreign idea to their literal-minded species. So Zarkin, not real ancestor? Asked the Vorax leader, its voice containing what sounded like genuine confusion. No, Cole confirmed gently. Zarkin was a character we invented to be a challenging opponent. We gave him a code of honor and complex motivations because that made the game more interesting. But technology functions, protested another Vorax officer. Weapons designs from sacred texts operational. Because they were based on real principles, Cole explained. We incorporated elements of actual military technology into our game to make it feel more realistic. But we exaggerated capabilities, ignored physical limitations, and combined systems that wouldn't actually work together. By the time the impromptu gaming session concluded 12 hours later, the tension aboard the Voryx vessel had transformed into something closer to academic interest. The Voryx, it turned out, were natural engineers, but had no cultural concept of fiction or entertainment. They had discovered the abandoned human ship decades ago and interpreted its contents with a literalism that had led to their current misguided crusade. "You created for pleasure?" the Voryx leader asked, still struggling with the concept. "Not instruction? Not history?" "Exactly," Cole confirmed. "Humans create stories, imaginary sequences of events with made-up characters, because we enjoy the process and the emotional experiences it generates." The Voryx leadership conferred among themselves in their native language, which sounded to Cole like a complex series of clicks and whistles. Finally, the leader turned back to address him. "Zarkin's children require reconsideration. Campaign based on misunderstanding." The massive alien made a gesture that involved all four of its upper limbs. "Creator Cole has spoken truth. Sacred texts, not sacred." Cole felt a wave of relief washing over him. "Does this mean you'll stand down your weapons and engage in peaceful communication with the consortium?" "Weapons deactivated," the Voryx leader confirmed. "New understanding required." Voryx seek clarification. In the days that followed, Cole found himself in the unprecedented position of cultural ambassador to a species that had built its entire modern civilization around a misunderstood role-playing game. The Voryx, once they grasped the concept of fiction, were eager to understand what other elements of their adopted culture had been based on entertainment rather than fact. The consortium, for its part, was fascinated by the Voryx. Long believed extinct, they had survived in isolated pockets of space, developing technological capabilities that in some ways surpassed those of consortium species. Their engineering skills, honed through the misguided attempt to recreate Zarkin's fictional technology, had produced innovations that consortium scientists were eager to study. 6 months after the near-catastrophic first contact, Cole stood beside Voss in the observation lounge of the consortium's headquarters, watching as the formal induction ceremony for Voryx representatives was broadcast from the High Council chamber. "Still can't quite believe it," Cole mused. "An entire civilization based their culture on our game, built a warship based on our sketches, nearly started an interstellar war, and now they're joining the consortium as the newest member species. Reality often exceeds the boundaries of what we consider plausible," Voss observed philosophically. "Though I doubt any xenosociologist would have predicted that a human recreational activity would prevent a war and lead to the rediscovery of a species thought extinct for millennia." Cole chuckled. "And to think, all those centuries you spent studying my character sheet weren't wasted after all, just applied to a different problem than you expected." "Indeed," Voss agreed, "though I still find it remarkable that the Voryx interpreted your game with such literalism. The concept of fiction appears to be far less universal than we assumed." "That's the thing about being human," Cole replied. "We sometimes forget that our capacity for imagination, for separating fantasy from reality while still valuing both, might be one of our most unique traits." As they watched the Voryx delegation taking their place among the thousands of species that made up the Galactic Consortium, Cole felt a profound sense of satisfaction. What had begun as a simple gaming hobby during long deployments in deep space had evolved, through the strangest sequence of events imaginable, into a bridge between civilizations. "The consortium has established a new academic department," Voss informed him. "The study of human recreational cognition. Director Thax has requested that you consider a permanent position as department head." Cole laughed. "From retired sergeant to accidental diplomat to academic department head. Not the career path I envisioned." "Few journeys follow predicted trajectories," Voss noted, "particularly when humans are involved." As the ceremony concluded, Cole thought about his old gaming group. They had scattered across Earth and its colonies over the decades, most likely unaware that their after-hours entertainment had been preserved as an alien artifact, studied for centuries, and ultimately prevented an interstellar war. "You know," Cole said thoughtfully, I should really try to contact the rest of my old unit. Jake Rivera would never believe that his character sheet not only became the most studied linguistic artifact in galactic history, but also helped prevent a war with a supposedly extinct species. An excellent suggestion, Voss agreed. Perhaps the consortium should host a reunion of your gaming group. It would be both historically significant and personally meaningful. Cole smiled at the thought. A bunch of retired Earth soldiers being honored by the Galactic Consortium for playing a tabletop RPG decades ago. Now that would be a story worth telling. One might even say, Voss added with what Cole had come to recognize as the Vossian version of dry humor, that it would make an excellent game scenario. As they left the observation lounge, Cole couldn't help but marvel at the strange path his life had taken. From soldier to linguistic consultant to the savior of billions of lives, all because he'd enjoyed creating fictional worlds for his friends to explore. Humanity's imagination, our ability to create and share complex fictions, had turned out to be more powerful than anyone could have predicted. In a galaxy of 17,000 known species, it might just be our most unique and valuable trait. Not our technology, not our resilience, but our capacity to envision what isn't real and share those visions with others. And that was a pretty good punchline for a story that began with aliens studying a game character sheet as if it were a profound artifact from a dead civilization. And that was the end of the story. If you listened all the way to here, don't forget to leave feedback about what you thought of the story in the comments, whether positive or negative. Your feedback helps us improve. Also leave your like and subscribe to the channel for more stories like this one. And I'll leave here on the screen another video that I'm sure you'll like. Big hug, and see you in the next story.